Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Farzy Show on this fine football Friday. We got some Phillies conversation to accompany us on this Friday as well. But let me start off by saying, yes, this is Steven Singer Studios. Yes, presented by Steven Singer. But this is a record we never wanted to own. This is officially, for the people joining us live, we like to start the show like between 6:10, depending on the technological things that can happen behind the scenes. For the people listening to this show later in life, maybe you listen at 7 o'clock, maybe you listen at 8 o'clock, maybe you listen to the podcast in the car, whatever it might be. I just want to let this know because I want to, accountability is what we're all about, whether that's us, whether that's our athletes, our coaches, our front offices. It's all about accountability. So I'm just going to put it out there. We're not starting the show at 6 o'clock today. No. We're not starting the show at 6:05. We're not starting the show at 6:10. We're not starting the show at 6:15. We are starting the show at 6:20 today. And you know what? I am outraged. And you know why? Because I hate machines. And the only thing I hate more than machines is being late. So my apologies. We were trying to get our stuff together, and it just wasn't working out. The machines were like, hey, guess what? We just grew middle fingers, and we're showing them off to you. So top of the Friday morning to you, you bastard. That's what they said. That's the machines talking. That's not me. Anyway, welcome in. Nice to have you. Nice to see you. See some people already chatting it up in the chats, which is great. We got a football Friday. We got our Farzy 5, our Farzy pregame 5, and I got a prediction I think you're going to like when it comes to this Eagles-Commanders game coming up Sunday, 1 o'clock. All the way down there in Landover, Maryland, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts. Oh, my goodness. What a great time we're going to have talking about this game. And I think we're going to have a great time coming out of this game. Yeah, I might be feeling myself a little bit. But I have an optimistic point of view about this game. I, of course, have an optimistic point of view about this Phillies game. Now, 1-0. It's wild. Baseball's a funny game. Baseball's a very funny game. You got an 18-11 game one night, and then 2 nights later, you got a 1-0 game. I want to start off with this before I even – now let's just jump into the Phillies. And then, of course, I have reaction to Ime Udoka. That's a story that's just blowing my mind. Here's the deal. JT Realmuto, when our man, Rob Thompson, Philly Rob, was addressing the media a couple of weeks ago, he talked about how JT Realmuto needs to be getting MVP consideration. And I'm like, he's been playing great, and I acknowledge that. He has been playing phenomenally well, and over his last month, he is hitting .333, and it seems like every time you look at his splits on what he's been doing since the All-Star break, he's hitting between .330 and .370, and he's hitting home runs. He's playing great behind the plate. I mean, he's really doing it all. But last night, you get one run in the ball game. In the whole game for both teams, 1-0 win for the Phils. It doesn't happen without JT Realmuto busting his ass for this organization last night, for his teammates, and for his city. Hits a sharp ground ball to third base, gets butchered, but he's still got to bust it down the line because they got a shot at him at first base. But what does JT Realmuto know when he makes contact with that baseball? You got Max Fried on the mound. You got the defending World Series champions in town for 3 more games after the one you're currently playing. You're looking at a Brewers team that is hot on your heels in the wild card race. Everything matters. Every play matters. He makes contact with that. I'm sure he knew it got butchered at third base, but again, it was a hard hit ground ball. He gets credit for the infield single overall. Bounces over to the shortstop. They fire to first. He just beats it out. So you got a runner on. Then Gene Segura steps up to the plate, pokes a little Bengal over there to right field, just making it through the infield. And what is JT Realmuto doing? He is busting it hard to get to third base. And then what happens later? Matt Vierling steps to the plate with a sac fly RBI, scoring JT Realmuto from third base, who put himself in position to score that. He does not do that without wanting to win. He does not do that with showing you by working so damn hard, by hustling, giving it the old Philly try, giving it the old college try. That run doesn't happen without JT Realmuto hustling around the bases. And sure enough, it's the only run that got scored. Ranger Suarez, that's the only run that got scored. We're going to give all the credit in the world to JT Realmuto for that. Now, in a 1-0 ball game, You have zero room for error. And the Phillies pitching staff last night, the conglomerate, if you will, of Ranger Suarez in last night's game, who got the start for you. Then Zach Eflin coming in. Then Jose Alvarado comes in and gets the save. A 4-out save. Comes in the 8th inning. It was wild. That ball that popped up, I forget who he got to pop up, but he gets to the pop up in foul territory, the only batter he faced, I think the only pitch he threw. And Jose Alvarado, because they got the shift on, books it off the mound. Jose Alvarado, I was just going to say this. The man, I don't think he looks like a free safety, okay? He books it, absolutely. He's not running in the pen relays anytime. But he books it off the mound into foul territory to try to make the play. Ends up drastically overrunning it. And I believe it was Bryson Stott who ended up coming down from the shift at shortstop. It was either Stott or Bohm. And they ended up coming down and making the play. Alvarado overran it by a good 10 to 15 feet. And then Stott, I think, fielded it, caught the ball, looked at it, was like, what the hell are you doing all the way over there? But anyway, good hustle. So it was all about the hustle last night. Of course, it was all about the skills as well. Ranger Suarez just had things working for him. And I want to say it was in the first inning. He had a little comeback to the mound for the 3rd out of the game. So a little one-hopper. It reminded me of Cliff Lee's fielding of that fly ball in the World Series where he just had that real nonchalant, like threw the glove up. And I believe Tom McCarthy's call of it at the time was like he was playing wiffle ball in the backyard with his son. Cliff Lee. With the most casual catch you could ever see. Now, that was a pop fly. This was a little bouncer back to the mound, and Ranger Suarez stuck his mitt out. Real cool, calm, collected. Fielded it, fired to first to get the final out of the inning. It was a great game by Ranger Suarez, who gave you 6 innings, 5 hits, scattered them, 2 walks, but did get the job done over 83 pitches. Zach Eflin came in, pitched the middle of this game, an inning and 2/3. 2 strikeouts, and then Jose Alvarado got to the 4-out save, as I said, with 2 strikeouts in the ballgame. I want to say this as well, and I tweeted this out. For the people that didn't see this, I want to make sure I get this guy's name right. Oh, where are you at, sir? Where are you at? Where are you at? Oh, I made a note of it. My phone's stupid. Hold on a second. I got this stupid phone. My phone's being stupid. Technology, man. Again, the middle fingers from the technology. Home plate umpire Andy Fletcher. And it's just funny because 2 nights ago 2 nights ago I'm watching the game and I'm like, I think this home plate umpire is doing a pretty good job. Like if it wasn't if he called it a strike and it wasn't a strike, it was just barely out of the strike zone when they would show you the replay and the K cast, whatever they call it. And I'm watching it and I'm just like, okay, this umpire is doing a great job. And then last night I'm watching the Phillies game and I'm like, this guy's terrible. There's a great line by Keith Jones, who would mess with people behind the scenes. And Jonesy would say up at NBC Sports when he was up doing NBC Sports nationally for the hockey broadcast and all that stuff, if somebody was behind the camera and wasn't doing a great job, somebody behind the scenes, he would say, hey, don't make me learn your name. Meaning, obviously, if now I know your name, you've done a bad job. It's like being a referee or being an umpire. If now I know your name, you're doing a bad job. Andy Fletcher's a name I looked up because I wanted to know it. He was terrible last night. Both sides, granted. But I'm watching the game, and I want to say it was about the 5th inning, and there's a ball very low to Matt Vierling out of the strike zone. Also, Guthrie had one that was low out of the strike zone. It was called a strike. They start arguing. Kevin Long, their hitting coach, ends up getting ejected, ends up giving Andy Fletcher a piece of his mind from the dugout, even more so after he was ejected. You see Rob Thompson come out, and he's arguing with the home plate umpire about balls and strikes. He's trying to protect his hitting coach, keep him on the bench. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition, but he was terrible. And then Max Fried throws a pitch in the dirt, and the crowd goes wild. I've never heard a louder ovation for a ball out of the zone, for a pitch thrown out of the zone and the umpire getting it right. It was in the dirt. Like, there was no other way you could call this. They ended up calling a real cheap check swing on Kyle Schwarber in the game, and people were just like, they're all mad about that, and rightfully so. But when I saw that ball go in the dirt, I was like, oh boy, something's coming. And sure enough, he did not disappoint, Philadelphia Phillies fans. You did not disappoint at all. That ball goes in the dirt. Fletcher calls it ball. And yeah, it was like somebody just got an RBI single. I'm not going to put it to the level of a home run, but it was like somebody just got an RBI single for you. It was like the first inning of JT Realmuto scoring on the sac fly RBI by Matt Vierling. It was just as much of an ovation for the Philly faithful as it was. So kudos to you, Phillies fans. Overall, Phillies get the 1-0 win. Phillies open up the series with a victory. They've now won 2 in a row. Let's take a look at the wild card standings as of right now. You're not going to believe this. The Padres lost a game last night, so the Phillies are just a half game out of the second wild card spot. Brewers did win, so the Phillies remain 2.5 games up on the Brew Crew now on September 23rd as of right now. So that's great. Phillies back at it tonight. 7:05 start time. 7:05 start time. We'll get more into that in the morning rush. Dave Zangaro is going to join us coming up in just a little bit to preview Eagles Commanders in their first meeting as the Commanders down in Landover, Maryland, and of course Carson Wentz, and of course some other things. But as of right now, here's what I got for you for my preview when it comes to the Eagles and the Commanders. Here's this week's Farzy 5 when it comes to the pregame Farzy 5. Number one on the list for me, as far as I'm concerned, it comes down to the D-backs against Carson Wentz. Last week, they had a pretty damn good game. Carson Wentz has been chucking the ball this season. He is second right now in terms of passing yards in the NFL, only behind Tua Tagovailoa, who, of course, had 469 yards in his comeback against the Ravens last week. So he's up there. He would be leading the league if it wasn't for Tua, okay? But you played a phenomenal game last week when you talk about Avonte Maddox, when you talk about James Bradbury, when you talk about, obviously, Darius Slay. We've talked a lot about how Jalen Hurts played his best game as an Eagle. Darius Slay, now the reigning NFC Defensive Player of the Week, without question, played his best game as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I need to see it again. Let me see it again. You're going to have guys like Curtis Samuel. You obviously have Terry McLaurin. You're going to have guys like Dotson, who's a hell of a rookie, getting things done for them, for Carson Wentz and this Washington offense. They can air it out. It's going to be up to the D-backs to make sure. It's going to be up to the safeties. It's going to be up to the corners, obviously, to make sure that they can keep Carson Wentz reined in. Let's hope that that's the way it plays out. As it goes with all of this, and this is kind of coming down to Jonathan Gannon. So the first thing is the defensive backs. I want to see the defensive backs be consistent, play the way they played last week against Kirk Cousins, play the way they played against Justin Jefferson. Hopefully it only gets easier now going into Landover playing against the Commanders. Jonathan Gannon. And I'll go over this again a little bit. This is number 2. Jonathan Gannon was talking in his press conference yesterday about it's only about matchups. Hey, you think he'll be aggressive again? It's about matchups. Our game plan is always going to be schemed to who we're playing. It's all about who we're playing. Yeah, that's great and all. But how about taking what you do really well and making the opponent deal with it? How about that? Not maybe changing things every week isn't the best possible idea. Maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe if Fletcher Cox is really good at winning one-on-one battles, if Jordan Davis is really good at winning one-on-one battles, if Josh Sweat is really good at winning one-on-one battles, if your linebackers blitzing or dialing up a safety blitz for CD Deuce like you did last week, or Avonte Maddox coming off the corner, if that works, maybe give that a shot. Maybe see how that works. Try that on. Now, here's the good news about that. Week 1, they were aggressive for 3 quarters. Not at all in the 4th quarter. Week 2, this past Monday night, the Eagles came out there and they were aggressive for pretty much 4 quarters. And if anything, they got more aggressive in the second half. Man, they brought it in the second half. Carson Wentz was sacked 5 times last week. So I say to Jonathan Gannon, to the defensive line, to the linebackers, and even a couple of the corners and safety, if you want to dial those blitzes up, go for it. Carson Wentz was sacked 5 times. Don't be outdone by the Lions when it comes to getting after the quarterback. I'm not saying go out there and get 6 sacks, but at least get Carson Wentz down on his back 3 different times, because guess what? He's being average 3 sacks a game. He's only sacked once week 1, 5 times last week. But still, keep that average up. 3 times a game. Let's go. So that's number 2, keeping that aggression going. Number 3 on the list, Jonathan Gannon. Mentioned him, excuse me. Number 3 on the list, Miles Sanders, excuse me. Miles Sanders has been off to a good start. 80-plus yards both games. He's got a touchdown under his belt. He's been catching the ball to the backfield as well. He looks good this season. He looks like he is having a lot more success than we're used to seeing him have. Ruben Frank asked the question at the press conference yesterday, talking about how of Shane Steichen, like what's making him different? What's making Miles Sanders different? He was a bit of a dancer in his previous seasons before Steichen and Sirianni got here, and obviously he was dealing with some injuries as well. But with Miles Sanders coming in to Philadelphia and being healthy now, he looks like a guy who is playing with that chip on his shoulder, who looks like he is taking his assignments a lot better than what he was before. Instead of trying to hit the home run every play, he's just hitting the hole and hoping for the best, and so far it's worked out for him. This Washington defense allowed 191 yards on the ground last week, 191 yards to, I believe, 5 different rushers, including Jared Goff. Their leading rusher last week for the Lions, actually, their St. Brown. It was their wide receiver. But 5 different rushers, 24 rushes in total, 191 yards allowed. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, go out there and eat. This is going to be leading into my 4th thing. Keep Carson Wentz off the field. I think this was some of their strategy last week going up against the Vikings. Keep that offense off the field. See if your offense can keep their offense off the field. Long drives, sustaining long drives, running the football. Make Carson Wentz feel pressure, like he has to perform from the second he steps onto the field. Not like he's got a lot of time. Not like he can wait to the second half or anything. Make Carson Wentz feel pressure, not just by blitzing, but like he's got to make things happen. Make him go to that hero gear that he so quickly goes to. We've seen him do it a million times on individual plays. Make him be in that mode from jump. Sustain long drives offensively. Jalen Hurts, Shane Steichen, Miles Sanders, run that football. Have your wide receivers step up and make big plays for you. I'm sure that's going to happen again in this. I don't really see the Commanders stepping up and really stopping much with their pass defense. But you have guys out there with Brown, with Smith, obviously with Dallas Goedert as well. Go out there and eat, please, sir. You have guys out there with wide receivers. Quez Watkins coming off his illness. You have guys that can help you sustain. You have enough weapons, offensively speaking, to put long drives together. Make Carson feel that pressure like he has to perform right now. He's got to be the hero right now, because that's when he starts turning the football over. That's where he starts fumbling the football. That's where he starts throwing interceptions. That's where he starts either throwing the ball away or just making stupid plays. I don't see this as being a good game for Carson Wentz. I see this as being a great matchup for the Eagles to know Carson Wentz as well as they do, for the Eagles to have the defensive pieces together that they do have, when they have a defense that have played for the most part, of the 8 quarters they've played, they've been the most aggressive I've seen them for 7 of those quarters. This is going to be I think, a very good game for the Eagles and the Eagles defense. And I think one of the ways they could do that is making Carson Wentz activate emergency mode as fast as humanly possible. Finally, it's the most important thing, and I don't like mentioning the quarterback because I just think it's too damn obvious, but Jalen Hurts is number 1. He had what I think was his best game as an Eagle, and you know what's crazy? I went back and I looked at some of the passer ratings that he's posted in his career, and wouldn't you know, the 108.7 passer rating that he put up just this past Monday night against the Vikings, in a game that myself and many others are considering his best game, was only the 4th highest passer rating he's ever had as a starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, last year, if you remember, the opener, he was great. Devontae Smith had that touchdown to lead things off. You played a great game. Brandon Graham, before he got hurt, had a great stop on the defensive side of things. But in that opener, he posted a 126.4 passer rating last year in the opener against the Atlanta Falcons on the road in Atlanta. Then in a loss last year to the Chargers, he posted a 115.3 passer rating. And then his 3rd highest was a 110.4 rating in a win against the Washington football team, now known as the Commanders. Go out there and do it again, son. If you're looking for consistency, why not put up the same numbers you did last year against this same team in the Washington Commanders? Why not go out there and put up, I don't know, another 110.4 passer rating? Why not go out there and do it? But the main objective, obviously, is to win above all else. He's had success against the Commanders in the past. He's had success against Washington in the past. Go out there and get that success again. Because nothing is going to validate, nothing is going to validate Jalen Hurts faster than consistency. Nothing. He can have these flashes. He could give us the signs that he's going to be a franchise quarterback, that he can be the franchise quarterback, but none of that comes to fruition without consistency. I'm not saying he needs to go out there and throw for 300 yards again. I'm not saying he necessarily needs to go out there and post another 100-plus passer rating. No, I'm not even saying that. He needs to go out there, play well, and win. That'll ultimately be the consistency. Because what I saw in week 1 was still a quarterback play great. The numbers weren't nearly the same as they were in this game against the Vikings this past Monday night, but week 1, they were still pretty damn good, and he wasn't given the opportunity, as I've argued for 2 weeks now. Did we get enough of an opportunity in week 1 to see Jalen Hurts and how much he improved? No, we didn't. Why? Because he's running for his life. Week 2, Monday night against the Vikings, we got an opportunity to see it. Now let's get that opportunity again. Offensive line, keep doing what you're doing. Just less penalties. Let's clean up the penalties. That'll be an honorable mention to the top 5. And then still with number 1 and sticking with Jalen Hurts here, I talked about it yesterday. Win the chess match against Ron Rivera. Win the chess match against Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator. I don't look at this. I know it's the sexy name. It's the juicy story. Wentz versus Hurts and all that stuff. Not my focus. My focus is how Jalen Hurts responds and plays against Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera. These guys have seen mobile quarterbacks. These guys have seen dual threat quarterbacks. How is Jalen Hurts going to conquer whatever they throw in his face? Whether that's disguising blitzes, whether that's disguising coverages, whether that's giving him terrible pre-snap reads. This is going to be a huge test. Huge test. I don't care that if Washington's given up some of the most points in the NFL or anything like that. This is all going to be based on how Jalen Hurts performs. Jack Del Rio, Ron Rivera, they're going to have something cooked up nice for Jalen Hurts. And it's going to be about how Jalen Hurts can overcome it. I think he does. I think he is that versatile a quarterback. But I think it's going to come down a lot more to what he can do with his mind in this game as opposed to what he can do with his athleticism. This is going to be a big test. Last week, we saw him use his mind phenomenally well. Last week, we saw him really diagnose what was in front of him, make some great plays, and saw that maturation really come through for a young quarterback. Week 1, you saw a lot of reaction. You saw him really relying on his athleticism, and if without that athleticism, no way they win that game. This is going to be more of a chess match than it is going to be a checkers match. Last week felt like a little bit more checkers because you had an opportunity against that defense that was not bringing a lot of pressure to sit back, survey the field. Your offensive line gave you time. More of that from your offensive line. Not as much pressure, obviously, as week 1. You could do that. You could break down things in front of you. Now with these two defensive minds, it's going to be a little bit more of a taller order. You went up against Todd Bowles last year, and Todd Bowles was on the sideline talking about how he couldn't break down a defense. These are two guys that know what they're doing in the NFL when it comes to designing defenses. Jalen Hurts, hopefully for them, is the best test that they'll have to this point. Jared Goff got his. Trevor Lawrence got his. No reason Jalen Hurts shouldn't get his as well. Like to see how he goes out there and handles his business. All in all, my prediction, for all those reasons and more, my prediction is that the Eagles win this game handily. I see the Eagles winning this football game 38-13, and we all feel fantastic about it afterwards. And then at 3-0, we all start going nuts with our predictions about how far this team can go. So that's my prediction. 38-13, Eagles handle their business against this Washington Commanders football team. Let me tell you, my man, Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. Steven gives everyone the perfect price each and every day. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. One place, one price, the perfect price every single day. When it comes to feeling like a family member, Steven Singer is where you got to be, because a real jewelry expert will sit you down, walk you through everything, show you whatever it is you want to see, and on top of it all, you know you're getting the perfect price because you don't have to end the conversation with some kind of crazy haggling or negotiating or anything like that. The person next to you is paying what you're paying because they too are getting the perfect price and they're getting the same treatment. So do what I do. When it comes to your jewelry purchases, trust one man. The man Philadelphia has trusted for over 40 years. Steven likes to say he's been in the love business in Philly for over 40 years. And that's exactly what he has done. Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at IHateStevenSinger.com. Steven Singer, one place, one price, the perfect price each and every day. At the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. Talk to my good friend, Dave Zangaro. Joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from NBC Sports Philadelphia, covering all things Eagles. If you're not following them, are you even an Eagles fan? And let's not forget, this holiday season is coming out with a reboot of the very famous movie Twins. This time it'll be Dave Zangaro and Myles Garrett, of course. Can't wait to see that movie with the family. Fine holiday fun. Dave, I say this to some people, but I really don't mean it. You have the best Twitter avatar in the history of Twitter avatars. I kid you not, my friend.
I've had some good ones. That one was funny, and so we were in Cleveland for those joint practices, and I was working on a story about Mailata like getting a chance to go against Myles Garrett the second day because Garrett wasn't there the first day. So we didn't have access to the Browns players, but I figured, well, I'll try to talk to them because the worst thing that happens is they kick me out. I'm already done here. You know, I'll never have to deal with Browns PR again. So I kind of timed it so he'd be walking off the field at the same time as me, and I got a few, minute with him or so. I didn't know Reuben Frank had ducked around the corner to take that photo, but it's a good photo. It's funny. And I had another one a few years ago with Jordan Mailata, and it looks similar. It's just like a giant hulking person next to me.
No, it's a great photo. I used the same technique in high school with the girl I had a crush on. If I just if we left class at the same time, she might talk to me.
Very similar, yeah.
Exactly. Totally different. But they both worked. Anyway,
yeah.
So let's talk about this watch. First off, I read the story you have on NBC Sports Philadelphia right now. I recommend everyone goes and checks it out regarding the messy divorce between Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we get into the X's and O's of it and how the Eagles will play, how Washington will play, when you look back on that moment in time, the Carson Wentz era, if you will, in Philadelphia, how do you remember it?
It still feels a little surreal, the whole thing, because he was supposed to be like the guy, right? He was supposed to go down as the greatest quarterback in team history. They identified this guy. They moved up from 13-2 to draft him. They said, this is our guy. This is going to be our guy for the next decade. And it worked. Like, he was, in his second year, he was better than anyone ever expected. He plays a huge role. I still firmly believe they don't win a Super Bowl without the way he played that season. So then to see it a few years later just disintegrate the way it did, I think there are lessons there for everyone who was involved in that. I know Carson gets a ton of the blame, and look, he deserves some. I think the organization deserves some blame, and some of it was just like bad luck, right? Like the injuries in general were bad luck, especially the concussion in 2019 in the playoffs. Because if he plays the rest of that game, they probably win it, or they at least have a good effort. Do they draft quarterback insurance in the second round? Do they risk? So it's kind of like this butterfly effect of like one little thing changes, the whole trajectory of their franchise changes, and his career too. And it's, people think like Carson is such a divisive figure, and he's not a bad dude. Like he's a good enough guy. I think he has some stubbornness in his personality. I don't think he ever connected to the entire locker room the way Nick Foles or Jalen Hurts did and still do. But all that would have gone away if he was able to just stay successful, stay on the field, and win games. When that didn't happen, I think all those things kind of compounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a fair assessment. And now we're very much in the Jalen Hurts era after two just wild games. The first one I would say was a little bit more wild. The second one I would say was just a lot better overall. I definitely think it was the best game I've seen him play as an Eagles quarterback. What say you after this Vikings game? Was that the best you've ever seen Jalen Hurts play?
100%. Yeah. He in that game, he did things that I wasn't sure he could do. And some of the throws he made changed my outlook on his ceiling, to be honest. And we need to see him do it consistently. We need to see it week in and week out. And but some of those throws, man, were next level. And we all knew that he had to get better as a passer, right? Like it's like I'm almost tired of saying it. I know people are tired of hearing it, but that was the truth. It was, he needed to improve in that area. And even in the first game, we saw evidence of that. But then in that second game, he blew me out of the water. I've gone back and watched that game a few times now. I can't get over some of the throws. And honestly, two of his best throws didn't count. The one that Dallas Goedert early on in that game, and then a little bit later, the ball where he's rolling left and throws it 35, 40 yards to Quez Watkins it was a holding call, so it didn't count. But those are two throws that, I've seen him make them in practice, but it's a lot different in a game where bullets are flying. He's got to be decisive. He's got to look to throw first off. Last year, he probably doesn't even throw that football to Quez. He probably tries to take off and pick up a first down, and that's okay. Like we saw in the first game a little bit, right? There were times where he would avoid traffic and break free and get a first down. And you think they can win like this, but what's the ceiling? Like what's the overall goal of your offense? This was a game where he can win throwing the football. The legs are still there, and it's still going to make him a really dangerous player, but the whole package is really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Now, when you talk about that ceiling changing a little bit, are you seeing a guy that could make a couple Pro Bowls in his career? Are you seeing a guy that could get in the MVP conversation once or twice? What are you seeing as a ceiling right now for Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I don't know where the ceiling is, which is what you want from a young quarterback who you might have to pay a ton of money to in this offseason. And we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's the fun part of this, right? Is
sure
we watch a game and we're overreacting to it, but that's what we have in front of us. He has top 10, top 5 potential if he continues on this trajectory. It's, we all thought he would get better. The team said it, he said it, because he's shown that. You go back to his first year at Alabama, he wasn't a very good passer at all, and he's gotten consistently better. That 1 year at Oklahoma was much better than we saw at Alabama. Rookie year was better than that year. Second year was better than that. And now all of a sudden, he's better again. The question was, how much better is he going to get? And is it going to come in a time frame in which the Eagles need it to? Because they're going to have a really tough decision that he might not make it a tough decision if he keeps going like this. But you were looking at it because I think at the beginning of last year, there was this thought that at the end of this year, we'll know. We'll just know whether or not he's the guy. He played 14 games, right? 15 games. He played 15 games. And we left that season going, well, I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. And it wasn't as important last year. This year, it's very important because if he's the guy, you want to pay him. He wants to get paid, and you have to figure that out. So the best case scenario is he plays lights out, makes up the Eagles' mind for him. They pay him a ton of money, and he pans out. That's the absolute best case scenario, and I think that's on the table now.
Now, I want to switch gears, talk about the defense for a second here. And I know you were asking Jonathan Gannon about the cornerback play with Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, and obviously James Bradbury, and trying to carry that over and what it does for a defense overall. And his answer that he gave you, I thought, was pretty fair in terms of it's everybody working together. It's the defensive line doing their job. It's guys winning their battles one-on-one up front, and then the cornerbacks obviously stepping up and being in the right place at the right time. When the Eagles got James Bradbury, they already had Avonte Maddox and Darius Slay. Did you think through 2 games they would already be at this level and kind of having that chemistry, knowing where each other is on the field and kind of having each other's backs, especially in a big game where you're playing against Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, it was very good. That's the best we've ever seen Slay play, and we've seen him play well in the 2 years he's been here. But um, overall, like they're still getting CJ Gardner Johnson up to speed. He's learning a new position, and I know everyone downplayed that. That's showing up. Like there's a learning curve there, and he's not. So I don't think they've reached their potential yet because I still think he's getting better and more comfortable at that position in the defense. So I think that'll come. Overall, though, I loved what they did on Monday night. And it's funny, you're again and answered my question about the secondary, saying, well, yeah, the pass rush helps the secondary. It goes the other way too.
Yeah, right.
Like the secondary helps the pass rush. And my point to him, and he knows what the point was there, was that they played man coverage in that game quite a bit. They weren't playing 20 yards off the ball, and they didn't give the quarterback an out. Even against Jared Goff, like they're talking about the pass rush, and I totally agree with them. They're tied together, and they were like, well, why didn't you get to the quarterback? And the answer is, well, Jared Goff got the ball out quickly. Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think he got the ball out quickly? Because you're giving him that out. It does work hand in hand. I really liked Gannon's aggressiveness in that game, and it was on a few different levels, and it's not just blitzing. Blitzing's part of it, but it's really just dictating the way you want to play defense and not letting the offense tell you that. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that, when you play certain offenses, you don't want to play some looser zones and be passive like that. That has a role, but I also think there's a point in time where you look at the personnel you have and it's pretty good. And you say, all right, well, we're going to be aggressive because we have the playmakers to dictate the way a football game is going to go. And they did that in this game, and it was refreshing to see. It was the most fun I've ever had watching a Jonathan Gannon defense.
Oh, I hope we see it again. And we're going to get to your second question. But real quick, to put a bow on that conversation, if you would have asked him about the defensive line or the guys up front, he would have answered by saying, well, the cornerbacks were pretty good too. I think he would have tried to tip his cap to each side, whatever side wasn't referenced. I think that's just what a coach would do in general. Let's talk about this Washington matchup here with the Commanders and Carson Wentz. Obviously, you mentioned Jared Goff getting the ball out fast, and he certainly did in week one. Kirk Cousins had some struggles there against this Eagles defense. Carson Wentz has been known throughout his career here in Philadelphia, in Indianapolis, and so far to the point this year through 2 games with Washington, though he's racked up a lot of passing yards, still holds on to the ball pretty long. Do you think Jonathan Gannon and this defense plays a very similar aggressive game that they did against the Vikings? Do you think they'll do that same thing coming up here against Washington?
It makes sense to me. I mean, try to force him into some errors. If not, if you're going with a straight 4-man rush and you don't get there, then they have some pretty good weapons and he can buy some time and they can get open. No one's covering for 5 seconds, right? So, right. And even, the last couple of years going against Washington, it was stop Terry McLaurin and you eliminate their passing offense. And that's not the case right now. Curtis Samuel's playing really well. Jahan Dotson looks pretty good in his first game action. So they have other weapons that you have to worry about. And I feel pretty good about the Eagles secondary, but help those guys out a little bit. Call a blitz here and there. The nice thing is Washington doesn't really have much of a run game. So we'll see. You try to stop it if they start running the ball. But such a big goal for any defensive coordinator is to make a team really focus on one thing or the other. And Washington kind of does that on their own already. So this is a game where it makes sense to me to be aggressive and get after him, force Carson Wentz into errors that we know he'll make at times. And maybe he beats you, but I'd put that game on him.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you 100%. You mentioned the rushing offense of Washington. It's not really there, which is kind of against their MO from years past. But when you look at their rush defense, that seems to be non-existent as well. And I know they went up against a really good running back last week and DeAndre Swift, but their defense allowed 191 yards. Do you think this will be a game? And I know Miles Sanders has had 2 solid games to start the season. Do you think this is going to be a breakout year or breakout game for Miles Sanders?
Yeah, it could be. He didn't get to see them in the last game, or maybe both of the last games they played Washington. They ran all over him in those 2 games. They're giving up 7.5 yards a carry, which is crazy. Now, some big runs in there have certainly skewed it through just 2 games, but They're not a very good run defense right now. I think you can run on them. They have a couple of good defensive tackles up front, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, two Alabama kids, but you can run on this team. And it's funny, DeAndre Swift he killed the Eagles and he killed Washington too. Washington and Philadelphia are 1-2 in terms of yards per carry giving up this year. Washington's a 7.5. The Eagles are a 6.2. So DeAndre Swift has a big part in both of those, but you can run on this team. And I think the Eagles can control this game doing that. I don't think it's a game where you throw away the passing attack because they're going to go into every game this season thinking they can throw on the other team. But this can be a game where you run on them. And Dallas Goedert might have a big game too. He seems to really kill Washington. He had in the 2 games they played them last year, he had 13 catches, 206 yards. So
wow.
I think this could be a breakout game for Miles and possibly Dallas.
All right, well, I'll cross my fingers for that. Real quick, go back to the defense for a second here, talking about Jonathan Gannon. This was the answer he gave you about a possible carryover, and I believe this had to do with pressure. This is what Jonathan Gannon had to say in his press conference today to you, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, there's carryover to everything we do, as far as, calls. Like, we're not changing the menu week to week. We pick and choose from different buckets, but, we always set it up. The game plan's always set up with our people in mind versus their people, our scheme in mind versus their scheme, and then our scheme versus their people and our people versus their scheme. It won't change.
Now, that's not what I want to hear from the defensive coordinator because being aggressive actually worked. And if it's working, I'd like to see it again. He's saying that we're going to match up to the personnel that we're playing against. Well, if you do something well, why not keep doing it?
Yeah, and look, I get his point. And there are some times where being aggressive can get you burnt. But sometimes, like I mentioned this earlier, like you're allowed to dictate the way you want to play too. It doesn't have to always be so dependent and so reactionary against what you're facing, right? And there are plenty of reasons to play zone defense. I'm not saying he shouldn't abandon that. He shouldn't play off. They shouldn't do all these different things because they have a lot in their menu, right? I'm not saying to eliminate it, but part of me looks at that game and thinks, well, you did this against a quarterback who's an average quarterback, right? And look at the quarterbacks they're facing this year. I know the offenses are different, but look at the quarterbacks. Just the next few weeks, right? Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, who is probably the best of those three. Cooper Rush, most likely after that. You're not seeing the Aaron Rodgers of the world. You see him later in the year. You're not seeing Pat Mahomes. You're not seeing Derek Carr. You're seeing quarterbacks that I feel like you can bully a little bit.
I hope so.
There's nothing wrong with dictating and being a bully. And I'm not saying it's just like, I think sometimes people think like, oh, blitz. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I think you time them up here and there. They can be effective, and we've seen that. But sometimes you have good corners too. Let them play man. Let them play press. Mix it up, but be the aggressor. That's all I want. And, it frustrated me last year to see his defense, not because they lost to good quarterbacks, but because they lost the same way to those quarterbacks. And it was like, maybe you are playing the best brand of football to give your team the best shot to win it. But wouldn't you try something else after a while when it's clearly not working? And that was my big qualm with him last year.
100%. Now, we referenced it earlier. This is the previous question that you asked him in the press conference. I want to make sure we get this in.
I was ready for it that time.
That would, I kind of telegraphed it, so I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get rid of this again. There we go. It's the stare down every time, Dave. It's the stare down that does it to me every single time. Before I let you go, I don't need your real full prediction. Are you feeling confident in this Eagles team pulling out a victory? You feeling that this is a win this weekend?
I am,
Okay.
but I also think this isn't an easy game. You're coming on a short week. You're on the road. I know it's just a drive, but you're on the road, and you're playing a team that I don't think is bad. I think Washington, to me, is the second best team in this division. I think they have a more talented roster than Dallas. I know Dallas has a better quarterback when Dak is healthy, but And this is also a Washington team that came to Philly last year with Garrett Gilbert and gave him a decent game. So as awful as that game was. So I think the Eagles are going to win it. The line tells you that too. It's up to 6.5 the last time I checked. I think they'll win it. And I'll be honest though, before the Vikings game, I picked the Eagles against the Vikings. I had a feeling they were going to win that. In the back of my head, I was thinking about picking Washington this week, but then I saw what the Eagles did in Minnesota or against Minnesota, and I thought, well, no, I think they're just a clearly a better team than Washington. I'm going to pick the Eagles in this one.
My man, Dave Zangaro. Watch all things Dave Zangaro on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Also, the Eagle Eye podcast with our friend Ruben Frank. And like I said, coming to theaters this holiday season, the reboot of Twins with Dave Zangaro and Myles Garrett. Dave, you're the best, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. Everyone give Dave a follow on the old social media as well and give a listen to Eagle Eye podcast. Dave, thanks so much, brother.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. The great Dave Zangaro joining us on the Ruffin Orthopedics guest line. I mean, him and Myles Garrett, it's uncanny. It really, really is uncanny. I'm telling you, it's uncanny. It's actually so not even close to canny that I don't even want to call it uncanny because it's ridiculous is what that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, about the great people at Manscaped. The Platinum Package 4.0. Fellas, you want to look good everywhere, right? Well, that's where Manscaped enters the conversation with their greatest hygiene bundle yet. The Platinum Package 4.0 includes a lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, weed whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, and it all comes with skin-safe technology, so it helps reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. Plus, the ultra-premium body wash, 2-in-1 shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, crop preserver, anti-chafing ball deodorant, crop reviver, ball spray toner, and anti-chafing boxers, as well as the Shed travel bag that you'll be using to tote around the goods that you'll be using to take care of your goods from Manscaped. Manscaped's the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Now you can trust them with the whole shebang. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and the free shipping when you use promo code Farzy. That's 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code Farzy. How about Freestone Farm CBD? You like it a CBD? You want to use it a CBD? You want to try it a CBD? You're looking for a new brand of CBD? Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com, where you get 20% off with promo code Farzy. Their menu is something you'll absolutely have to check out with strains like their insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%. Excuse me. I had a little left. And Super CBD, which if you haven't heard, this is going to be tough right now. No, that's terrible. There we go. Super CBD, which is half Hindu. Kush. There we go. That's how you rally, kids. That's how you rally. And 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. There's absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. So check out Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com. You've heard me talking about Mojo. Download the app. Go to mojo.com. Every player is a stock, is basically how it works. They have over 300 skilled players across quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, and you treat them like stocks. Who's up? Who's down? Last night, Najee Harris finally got into the end zone. Didn't really have that great a game other than that. So you're buying high, you're selling low on Najee Harris. What do you think of Najee Harris? Mitchell Trubisky, what are you doing with that stock even? Who knows? Last night, Steelers lose to the Browns. What do you like? Who don't you like? What are you buying? Are you buying low? You're selling high. You look across the board, Jalen Hurts right now, you'd be selling high. If you bought low on Jalen Hurts, if you believed in Jalen Hurts from the get-go, you'd be selling higher on him right now after he's up over $3 in that stock. Mojo has stock for each athlete, a share price for each athlete, and it rises and falls in real time based on on-field performance, news, and anything else that might affect expectations on the field of play. Prices move all year long, so there's no offseason. Mojo's published right now. Guarantee payout formula is based on objective stats, so you always know exactly what the stock is worth. Think an underrated rookie is out there? Is then they're a rising star? Buy low right now at a great price and then sell high. Mojo is available in New Jersey on iOS, and just by downloading the app, you have the chance to win up to $10,000 in free shares of player stock. You can click the link and also make sure you're 21 or older and physically in New Jersey to trade on Mojo. Have a gambling problem? Help is available at 1-800-GAMBLER. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. Before I get into the chat check, I want to address something. For the people on the podcast, I have changed from my normal, rather, I'll just say, sexy button-downs to a T-shirt. And this T-shirt reads Lombardi Strong. When I talk to you guys about making meatballs or doing anything like that, making braciole, I'm going to one place, and I've been going to this place for a couple years now. It came highly recommended. It was a Facebook friend of mine, and then someone I know personally recommended, if you need meats, Maria Perley, what's going on? She said, if you need meats, you go to see my friend Anthony. I said, well, you got it. And then Anthony reached out to me because I couldn't find one ingredient. He says, I got plenty of it. So I started going to him. He's now my meat guy for the past couple of years. I've got to know him, his son, and just a great family. Anthony got some bad news. That's all I'm going to say. And Anthony needs support. And he's a really nice man. And I consider him a friend. I consider his family friends now that I've been going to them and communicating with them over Facebook and all that. They got some bad news recently. And when I was in there most recently, I was going up to the Finger Lakes. I told you guys about it. I was making dinner. I was making the whole traditional family meatballs and all that. So, of course, I go by and I see my man Anthony. And his son hooks me up with some fine quality meats, as you should too, right there on Packer Avenue. And he gives me some news about his dad. And he throws me this T-shirt. And I said, the least I can do is, if you don't mind, I'll wear it on the show. He said, that'd be great. So I'm wearing this shirt to let my man Anthony know that I'm thinking of him. And then I'm sending good vibes his way. I'm sending prayers his way. And I also want to let his family know that I'm thinking about him as well. And I'll not just be praying for him, but I know how happy he'll be if the Eagles do start out this season 3-0. And we'll be pulling for the Eagles. At least I know I'll be pulling for the Eagles a little extra hard, not just for the fact that they win for the city, but they win for my man Anthony. So, Anthony, I'm thinking of you, buddy. Hang in there, my friend. Let's get into the chat check, ladies and gentlemen. And see how all you guys are doing today on this fine fall. Oh, man. Crispness in the air out there. See how you guys are doing. Mally, good morning. Kevin, good morning. Mally, hello again. Tommy March, first time watching live. Love the show, Tommy. Welcome aboard, brother. Nice to have you along. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to Thunderdome. Sean Gillespie, good morning. John Cheeseborough, good morning, Farzy and Society. I missed you guys this week. We missed you, John. We missed you. Gonna get all of this in at once. Love the start the Eagles. John's making up for lost time. Love the Eagles start against the Vikings. They had no answers for the Eagles. The Eagles did whatever they wanted to do. Absolutely correct. I agree wholeheartedly. Mihai Sanchez. Hopefully the Eagles are over the slow starts from last year. Let's hope so, because that had been going on. That even went back to our man Doug Peterson as well. What else do we have here? We have John Cheeseborough checking in on the show. Again, some of the revenge game for Jalen Reagor. Yeah, right. Maybe. I think they also have, let's see, John Cheeseborough is also checking in. Love the most about Monday night's game. Every time the Vikings had hopes of adding to their sole touchdown, the Eagles defense stepped up and made things happen. You're absolutely right. April, an Eagles win will be a great birthday gift. Hey, April. Wait, your birthday? Happy birthday, April. Happy birthday. What else do we have here? John Cheeseborough, hello again. Slay had 5 targets, 2 catches. Yeah. Jim Grassmeter, anyone worried about Monday night? Let down on Sunday.
Whoa! Whoa!
Hi, sweetheart. You brought me my water?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm okay, sweetie. This is a first. This is long overdue. Matalutz, where's mom? Where's mom, sweetheart? Can you go get mommy? Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I'm shouting sports information. Again, Daddy's at it again, sweetheart. Can you go upstairs and I'll wait for you? This is interesting. Hi, sweetie. I wish I could get up and help you. Yeah. Okay. Hold on one second. Guys, for the people on the podcast, I'm vacating my seat for a second. Little Toots is in the room. All right. Hold on, sweetheart. Come here. Come here. All right, you're going to help me with this last segment, okay? Let's just adjust this. You're welcome, sweetheart. All right.
I'm going to talk to him.
Hold on one second. We have a cameo. We have a cameo. Come here. Let's say hi to everybody, okay?
Where?
Everyone right there. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Monalut, say hi. There you go.
Hi.
This is Little Toots, everyone. So this is the part of the show where I just talk to all the fine people watching and listening, all right? Sean Gillespie, he's a regular commenter. Let's see. Monday night letdown, and the penalties.
Daddy, yeah.
Yes, you got my headphones on, sweetheart. Very good. Let's see.
Daddy, you want to walk?
You want to work too?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. You should want to work. Seeing the same show, wardrobe change done. Farzi's a diva. Sweetheart, this man called me a diva. Is he right?
Hello.
Oh man. April. Yep, it's today. That's why I got to sleep in. April, happy birthday. Can you say happy birthday to April?
Have I seen
It's April's birthday. Lil Toots, let's see her. Here she is, folks, in all her glory. Oh, Jim, you're sweet. Thank you so much. Everyone's saying hi to you, sweetheart. Say hi.
Hi.
Oh, were you scratching your head? Were you scratching your head?
Yeah.
Oh, little boo-boo.
It's a boo-boo.
Let's see here. Oh, everyone's saying hi to you, sweetheart. See, you have taken over the show. Your daughter coming into the show has to be a better podcast moment. Yes, it absolutely has. This is the second time you've done this. You did it once during an interview when Daddy was taping an interview, and you just came in and you were fee-fi-fo-fumming all the way in. And Daddy edited that out. But here you are live and in person.
Where? I don't see you.
You don't see? Here, I'm going to shrink this screen. See, you're right there in the monitor. See that monitor right there? Do you think the Eagles are going to win on Sunday?
No.
Do you think the Eagles are going to win? Oh, now she sees herself in the monitor. It's over. It's over. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great. The Farzy and Farzy show. Yeah. Yes, April, you got a birthday shout out from Little Toots. I didn't even get a birthday shout out from Little Toots. Already a pro putting the headphones right on. Michael, nice to see you in here. Welcome aboard.
Wake up.
What's that?
Wake up.
Michael? Oh, yeah, you have an uncle, Michael.
Where?
And he's at home with his kids. I wonder what they're doing right now. Wonder what her cousins are doing. Thank you, sweetheart. Can you say bye-bye, or you want to hang out still?
Okay.
You want to hang out still? Okay, that's fine. All right. Daddy already gave his Eagles prediction. Can you just tell me whether or not the Eagles are going to win on Sunday? Are the Eagles going to win? Yes or no? That was a nod for the people on the podcast. That was a nod. All right. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, everyone in the chat. You guys are great. Let's get into the morning rush.
Mommy.
I don't know where mommy is, but I'd love to know, actually. Morning rush segment. Phillies back at it tonight against the Braves. 7:05 start time. Aaron Nola back on the bump against Jake Odorizzi. Let's hope the Phillies can make it two wins to start out this series, 3 games in a row. And that's what I got for you. Eagles win.
I don't see.
Do you want to see? Okay, here we go. Oh, there you go. You see you? And I'll pull you up over here too. There you go. You can see yourself right there. This whole time I've been worried about my wife's cats getting into the shot, and that's been the least of my worries now. Eagles win 38-13 is the final score of the game. Say bye-bye, sweetheart.
Bye-bye.
Jim Hyden produced the program, did a phenomenal job. This is a sports entertainment production. Jim, I'm not having my daughter say Kush. But thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Now she's producing the show. Wait, Morning Rush. Got to get this in as well. This is pretty wild. Jim just showed this to me during the interview. I didn't see this before the show. We have this doctor commenting on Ben Simmons and how you got to be a little bit more sensitive to a person with mental health after he addressed it on the JJ Redick Old Man in the 3 podcast. Austin Rivers replied to it by saying, bro, do you actually believe this dude? If y'all only knew. Oh, you getting the microphone? Oh, there. That's how you know she's my daughter. She's getting the microphone. So you guys can check that out on social media. All right, Emmanuel, can you just say it right there? Manolo, it's into that the microphone. Can you just say bye-bye? Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Can you say have a great weekend?
Good weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Jim Hyder produced program. It's a Buzz Sports Entertainment production.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great weekend. Go Birds.